All right, what's going on, folks? We're here with another video, and we are looking at 5 Steam Deck game recommendations that I'm going to be making for you folks. Now, I want to caveat this particular video. These are just my experiences for games I have played on the Steam Deck, be it the unsupported, unknown, verified, or playable. So I will make sure that each one is listed as one of those categories. So the mentality for this list is literally click the download button, install button, whatever you want to call it, and click play. There might be, a menu that you have to click the play button for, like in one of the games, but once you click start, it just goes and there's no tweaking. So that's my whole mentality for this video. So first up, we have Scarlet Nexus. This is an anime story-based action RPG with dual protagonists, which is nice because that makes you play through the story twice, giving you a different perspective on each one because they have different places that those particular protagonists will go. Cyberpunk aesthetic, brainpunk aesthetic. So very, very fun game, very action combat oriented. So once you start throwing in your combat skills with your telekinesis and other abilities that you get throughout the game, really fun. And this is a verified title. Next up, we have Game Deck. The question becomes, have you ever wanted to play Blade Runner? And I don't mean the game that they released back in like 1997 from Westwood Studios. This particular game will give you that exact opportunity to do. This is a cyberpunk detective game. It's an isometric top-down view, but it's got branching stories. If you always wanted the machine from Blade Runner, where it's got a focus on the eyes, telling you if it's a replicant or not, this is that kind of game. So this is branching story. Lots of different world states and game states that the game can end up in. Lots of reading though, so if that's not a thing, you probably won't like it. There is voice acting, but not a lot. This is playable. Next up, we have Excel World versus Sword Art Online. This is 2 franchises by the creator of both of these franchises. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name because I'll butcher it. I'm horrible with Japanese enunciation whatsoever. I'm bad at English enunciation. So this is an action RPG, open world as far as the exploration and the combat happens in the same overview. This takes place in ALO, flying mechanics in it, exploration. There is a story. It's kind of typical nonsensical, SAO, Excel World kind of story. But the combat's fun, different ways of linking combos and stuff. Really, really enjoyable combat. And that's really why I'm making that recommendation. And this is actually unsupported. Next up, we have a fairly new game, Siberia, The World Before. This is an adventure game from the series from Siberia 1, Siberia 2, Siberia 3. And it's a dual timeline approach. The older setting is kind of a steampunk in between World War I, World War II kind of setting. More modern setting takes place in like the early 2000s. 3D exploration, really story focused. Really good voice acting, really good music, just a really, really fun game. And this is totally playable. Next up, we have a really new game, and that is one called Loopmancer. It's a 2.5D side-scrolling action game. Some will call it a roguelike because there's procedurally generated stuff. It's a cyberpunk setting. Basically, this game is if you take Cyberpunk, Groundhog Day, kind of a few other aspects of games and throw them together, and this is what you get. Death is pretty frequent, but it's not unfair. I will say that. So it's a hard, the beginning is hard to get past, but once you get past it, it's really not that bad. Probably the most similar game I can find called Strider. So if you've played those type of games, you'll get an idea of kind of what Loopmancer is. And this game is currently unknown. So there you folks go. There's 5 game recommendations for your Steam Deck, regardless of whether they're verified, supported, or unsupported, or just playable. Those are ones that I know for me have worked. What are some of the ones that fall into different categories that say they're unsupported, but they actually work, or they're unknown, or they're verified. So what have your results been?